Hello, hello, and Heidi hi. And welcome to the King's Head Theatre Pub in Islington in North London, where I'm on the trail of one of the stalwarts of British comedy. And helping me track him down are two of his dearest friends and stalwarts themselves, Ruth Madoc and Carmen Silvera. Now, first of all, here's a clue to our man's identity.
He hasn't locked the bathroom door.
Why?
The man's tried to kill himself 13 times as it is. A thing like this, I mean, but you could see how close to the edge he was. What if he gets in the medicine cabinet?
Oh, for goodness sake, you've been watching too many soap operas. What's he going to do? Hang himself with some dental floss?
Ruth, the man they're talking about is a most versatile performer, isn't he?
Oh, yes. He's done everything in the business, you know, Michael. Pantomime, farce, musicals, and even, of course, a lot of classical roles, but he's done them with such brilliance.
And, Carmen, you know him just as well, don't you?
Oh, yes, both on stage and off, because I've had the pleasure of working with him, too. And he is such a delightful person. He's kind, considerate, generous, all of those things and more.
Good. Well, here is our plan, and I shall only say this once, darlings. Now, he at the moment is preparing for his latest role as the government inspector at the Almeida Theatre. And that is where we are going now. And the lovely Debbie McGee has agreed to help us with this particular bit of trickery. Debbie, where is he now?
Well, he's in the middle of a photo call in the foyer of the theatre. But don't worry, because I can magic us all there.
Have we got a surprise?
What are you doing here?
Have we got a surprise for you?
What's that?
3, 2, 1.
What? Good evening. I said this could never happen to me.
I was just coming to say, flashbang wallet, what a picture. Hold the pose while I do say, Brian Murphy, this is your life.
I'm too old for this, you know.
Don't open it yet.
Well.
You're covered with lipstick, you know.
Yeah, but it's yours. God.
Well, as you've seen, a packed house for you tonight, Brian.
Yes.
Family and friends, including your best friend, Brian Berry. From the wonderful world of entertainment, James Grout, Ken Farrington, Judy Cornwell, Amy MacDonald, Lorraine Chase, and Tony Palmer.
I don't know any of them.
Well, you might recognise your two friends who helped me snap you up tonight, Ruth
Yes,
Madoc
indeed.
and Carmen Silvera. And topping the bill, the actress you met 7 years ago when you both starred in the farce Wife Begins at 40, or in her case, much earlier, your wife, Linda Regan.
Oh, bless her. Where's
Well, let's go back to more innocent times. Your getting together was almost written into the stage directions, wasn't it, Linda?
Yes, because we met playing husband and wife. It was meant to be, wasn't it? And the first morning of rehearsals.
I was an innocent 58-year-old.
Do you remember the first morning of rehearsals?
I better not.
Let's get this out. And our producer...
That's not his first words.
I was there, and I think
This is catching you.
She won't want to mind.
I normally get the last word. I'll try.
Go on,
not-
yes. Not tonight, you don't know.
Our producer, John Newman, said, when I was sitting there, and you walked in and he said, Brian, let me introduce you to your new wife. And you said, I'm just going to make a cup of tea. And I said, no sugar for me, thank you.
That was it, was it?
That was it.
You can tell I was a romantic, can't you? I'll tell you what, I never did make that cup of tea.
Well, Brian Murphy, this is your life. Your career in films, television and the theatre has spanned 42 lively years. It's taken you from the East End and Joan Littlewood's theatre workshop to the West End, Broadway and film stardom. But it's on television you've made your greatest impact, starring as the hen-pecked husband George Roper in Man About the House and its chart-topping spin-off George and Mildred. More recently, you've delighted as the chronic-born Mr. Foskett in One Foot in the Grave and as Mr. Merton Sr. in The Paul Merton Show. Here are a few highlights from the life of Brian.
Well, sorry to barge in again like this, ladies, but the wife and I are in a little disagreement over a certain matter of sex.
Oh, you want to borrow a book? Wake up! I've got something for you.
Oh, not now, Mildred. It's too early.
Right for the people, but we do not know them. And they do not know us. They're so backward, so savage.
For crying out loud, it's only 2 hours.
2 hours? I thought you said it was only half an hour.
You don't have to stay. I've been managing all right about you so far.
Of course, you hesitate at first, because people don't always want to see you after 17 years. For all I know, you may be praying you never set eyes on me again.
Well, back to Act 1, Scene 1. You were born at Ventnor in the Isle of Wight. You were the youngest son of Gerald and Mabel Murphy. When you were born, your dad was a grocer's assistant, and your parents later ran restaurants. You had 2 older brothers, Ken and Eric, who sadly were both killed on active service during the war. But when war broke out in 1939, you were living in Balham, South London, which became one of the most bombed areas in the capital. During the Blitz, your home became an open house for troops who couldn't get home on leave. Both your parents were interested in amateur dramatics, and your dad used to entertain them with funny walks and voices.
And you became star of the air raid shelter entertainments.
Your cousins, John and Paul Murphy.
Oh,
Paul, what do you know about those wartime shows, then?
He used to be down to the underground shelters at Balham and entertain the people down there.
Before they flooded it, this was, wasn't it?
Well, I think so, yes.
Yeah.
You tell me that.
The first memories I've got is when he used to come around the house performing his Punch and Judy shows. We enjoyed his shows then, and we enjoy them even more today.
Well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
Brian, what was it, the underground act that kept everyone amused?
I took the bunks from the air raid shelter and I put them into the living room to create a stage. And I performed on the stage. But because I couldn't persuade any other children to join me, I had to do the show entirely by myself. So I pulled the curtains and I did all the voices behind the curtain. And I charged the children, those that were sitting on the floor got charged a halfpenny, and those who sat on the Welsh dresser got charged a penny.
Well, unfortunately, your house in Balham was completely destroyed by bombing.
Hitler got to find out about this act. Bring that to Germany, we'll all lose, you think.
Well, after the drama of the war years, you're keen to develop your acting skills, and as a teenager, you joined the Borough Polytechnic evening drama classes. You're still attending them in 1952.
That makeup.
Oh, was it makeup?
Well,
you're still attending them in 1952 when you start your national service. As an aircraftsman second class, you meet another aspiring actor. Tonight he's on stage at the Royal Court Theatre, but he sends you this nostalgic message. Richard Briers.
Brian, congratulations. What a great night. Well, I was just thinking we go back rather a long way, I'm afraid, a very long way, since 1952, when we first met during the dreaded national service. I was a stage truck filing clerk, wondering how on earth I was going to get some acting experience in the RAF. And I was amazed when you said that you'd been actually acting already in an amateur group in the Borough in central London. So you told me that the producer was a great mate of yours and you might be able to get me in. And indeed, knowing you, you did. And we had such wonderful evenings, some of the happiest evenings of my life. Well, Brian, of course, everyone knows you're a great comedy man, but I'll always remember that wonderful performance you gave on television, The Life of Old Mother Riley, remember, some years ago. It was a deeply moving performance, and you proved you were an all-round actor. Well, let's face it, you can act anything. Well, congratulations. Have a great night. Thank you for all your friendship and the laughs, and thank you, too, for getting me my first job. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Richard. Another member of the Bryans family played a vital part in your early training, Richard's sister Jane. Jane, tell us about those days.
I was about 14 when I first met Brian, and he used to come to my parents' home in Hatch End. And he and Richard used to disappear into the attic for hours, days, weeks, and I was never allowed in, except when I took them sandwiches with some tea. And also, if by chance they wanted me to tape record a wonderful piece of Shakespeare. And they used to then say, thank you very much, you can go now.
Another close friend from those days at Borough Poly appeared with you and Richard Briers in The Happiest Days of Your Life. There you are, dressed as schoolgirls. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but since then he's moved to the States, and he now lives in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's 10 years since you last met, but he has flown in to be with you tonight. Eric Paisley.
Oh, bless him.
Hello.
Eric, you were both involved in a murky real-life drama.
That's right. It was in the late 50s, and Brian was already an actor, and I was working as a graduate apprentice, engineering apprentice up in Liverpool, and Brian came up in a play. So being a couple of old mates, we had a day out, and we went across on the ferry to the other side and walked around on the sea wall and down the steps onto the mud flats. And we were out there, and Brian's waving at the people up on the wall, you know. And so I waved to them, thinking they were people that knew him in the theatre and so on. And we carried on, and then suddenly we noticed that people were waving rather frantically. And we came to realize we were standing on an island, and the tide had come in, and between us and them, there was this river of cold water, deep water. So we took our shoes and socks off, rolled our trousers up, and went across, getting our trousers very wet in the process. And when we got to the other side, Brian stopped and looked up at the crowd and smiled at them in a way only he can, and took a great theatrical bow like this. And of course they laughed and applauded, which proves the point once again that Brian loves a good audience and can get a laugh out of anything.
Oh, man.
Thank you. After the RAF, you spent a year studying at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Money was tight, your budget was £3 a week. To save on fares, you walked 10 miles every day to and from your digs in Holland Park to the Academy. But in 1955, after a year as a drama student, your money runs out and you have to leave. But within 10 days, you get an audition with Joan Littlewood's famous theatre workshop at Stratford East. A message now from your boss, Joan Littlewood herself.
Brian Murphy, you crackpot, what are you doing there? I've known you a long time, and I never know where you'll turn up next. It's, my God, it is a long time, isn't it, when you walked in an actor and nearly walked out when I said, well, you can stop acting. You were furious. But then off we went. Lope de Vega, Big Rock Candy Mountain, and so it went on. And you did do the great thing. You brought laughter, joy. That was, to me, more precious than gold, great art, titles, and money. I know I shouldn't say it, because we were broke, but we were rich. And you were rich, and you gave us laughter. Thank you for all the lovely performances, friend. Cheers.
Jimmy Perry, before you went on to write Dad's Army and Heidi High, you acted with Brian at Stratford East.
Yes, we did indeed. And it's exactly 30 years ago, Brian, you and I were sitting in a cold, drafty dressing room with Nigel Hawthorne, and we were all desperate, and Nigel said, if I don't get a break soon, I'm going back to South Africa. And you said, nobody wants me. Jones, anyone will employ me. And I said, I've had enough of acting, and I'm going to try. I've written this thing about the Home Guard. I don't suppose anybody would be interested. And 30 years later, Nigel Hawthorne is a big international film star, and you're the king of comedy, and I'm still writing rubbish.
You met your first wife, Carol, while you were both working at the theatre workshop. You were married in 1957 and soon had 2 sons who eventually follow you into show business. One has his own production company here in London, and the other is a writer in California. But they are here, the Murphy boys, Trevor, and from Santa Monica, his younger brother, Kevin, and with them, Trevor's son, your grandson, Martin. They grow so huge, don't they?
Don't they?
Kevin, what was it like growing up as the son of an actor?
Oh, it was fun, it was brilliant. To me, acting always just seemed to consist of going to dole office twice a week, which I thought was wonderful. But it did also mean that he had a lot of spare time, and we used to play Subbuteo, and he's a great Pompey fan, and I'm a West Ham fan, so it made for some good rivalries, but somehow I don't understand it. Portsmouth often used to win. I think he used to cheat, personally.
Trevor, what was the most important advice that your father gave you?
Oh, well, Brian gave lots of very valuable advice, Michael, but one piece of advice that I have taken with me into my own business is that Brian gave to me. He sat me down one day and he said, now listen, Trevor, there's something that's really very important, and that's the way you answer the phone. You should make sure you answer it absolutely properly, take proper messages, be very polite, because you never know, it might be a job for me.
Martin, you're a great fan of your granddad.
Yeah, there are a few things I'd like to say, but I think what sums it up best is a poem written about him by Adrian Mitchell, which I'm going to read a small piece of. All the Garden of Eden applauded, and the Lord told Adam and Eve, every play will need a Brian Murphy, so the audience will believe. And whenever there is Brian Murphy, then all creation shall know. Give him a stage and lights and a baggy pair of tights, and you got yourself a show.
As well as your own family, for many years, you and Carol welcomed a succession of foster children into your happy family circle in Tufnell Park. 6 children lived with the Murphy household over the years, and most still keep in touch. Now, Brian Cook is a co-writer of Mad About the House, and George and Mildred, you were a regular visitor to the Murphy home.
Yes, I was, and it was wonderful to see Brian with the kids. They had absolutely no respect for him whatsoever. Famous actors have found made no difference at all. And the Murphy household, as I remember, it was full of rudeness and chaos and love and kindness.
Thank you. In 1963, you were one of the company in Theatre Workshop's hit musical, Oh, What a Lovely War. The following winter, you crossed the Atlantic for the Broadway version.
And boy, did we celebrate that Christmas Day. No, we didn't.
A distant memory from George Sewell.
Oh,
George, there wasn't much Christmas cheer on Broadway then?
No, there wasn't, not that year. You see, he'd borrowed Peter Cook's flat, and we were going to have a big party there on Christmas. You know, in Britain, the one day of the year when the theatre is closed, Christmas. And about 10 days before Christmas, on the company notice board is a big notice. 2 shows on Christmas Day. And we look at it laughing, saying, boy, wouldn't that be funny if there were 2 shows? But it was New York, so there were. So can you imagine a bunch of actors couldn't have a drink till 11 o'clock that night. Terrible. But there's another reason why that show is really memorable to me. You see, Brian is an actor of great subtlety and brilliance. Now, he doesn't know about this, but there was one scene that I wasn't in, and every night, night after night, I'll tell you about it afterwards. Every night, night after night, I used to stand in the wings and watch him do it, and then go off and say to my wife, you know, I'm going to give up this business. I'll never be that good, because he's the greatest.
Oh, thank you.
When you return from Broadway, you do something completely different. You star in the West End as a tabby cat.
Meow, Brian. The trouble was, the audience didn't think either of us were the cat's whiskers.
He was a Siamese in that play, Brian Pringle.
Oh.
Brian, was this what we call experimental theatre?
It was called Summer, or in the French, Été.
Right.
And the producer told us that it was been running in Paris for, 2.5 years. So we thought, oh, we're onto a good thing here. You know, so we were playing cats, and we could hear and understand each other in the first act, right? And the second act, the two people who were playing with us, they couldn't understand us at all. And neither could the audience, and we came off in a week. Anyway, so we went to the producer and said, how is it that this play's been running for 2.5 years in Paris? He said, well, it's the Theatre de Poche. And I said, what does it mean? He said, it means a pocket theatre. They can only get 20 people in there a night. Anyway, we got something out of it. Murphy took the set home, and the kids played on it for years to come.
Thank you, Brian. In 1973, you get your big break in television in a new comedy called Man About the House.
What, a fella moving in with two birds? I suppose you thought I wouldn't realise dressed up like that.
Oh, look, it would be purely platonic.
I don't care what he... What's that mean?
Like you and me, George.
And there are two men and a woman about the house tonight. Richard O'Sullivan, Norman Eshley and Paula Wilcox. So, Richard, I imagine it was one long riot of fun, was it?
It was very stressful. It's one of the hardest series I've been on. For instance, read through, 10 o'clock, we were forced to drink champagne and orange juice, till at least 12 o'clock. Sometimes we worked even up to 1:45 every day. Am I telling a lie or am I telling a lie?
Oh, sure.
You're lying. I am. We had a great time. And we did. It was 3 years long paid holiday.
Yes, I agree.
Well done, Brian. Enjoy tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Well, for years, your screen partnership with Eutha Joyce keeps you high in the ratings. And then, tragically, just as you were about to record another series of George and Mildred, Eutha dies. You'd become very close, and the death of your screen wife was the sad end of a chapter for you, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed. Because we were great friends as well as a working partnership.
In the years since, you've rarely been off stage or screen, and most recently have been delighting a whole new generation in the children's TV series Wizardora. Now, by general consent, one of your finest performances was in 1985 when you played Arthur Lucan, the man who created the much-loved musical character Old Mother Riley. Now, Alan Plater, you wrote On Your Way, Riley. Brian did you proud.
Certainly did. I mean, in a profession full of beautiful movers, many of whom are here tonight, Brian is easily the most elegant, the most truthful, the funniest. He also gets all his lines right. And he's got this great extra thing that he can play as a man or as a woman, and that's rare.
Well, here you are, giving us your Old Mother Riley.
You will now see how you lost your father. Seconds out the ring! Seconds out the ring!
You missed your cue. I had to say seconds out the ring twice.
I was doing you a favour.
You were doing yourself a favour.
Yeah, I could tell the sparring routine was going well with the audience. So I thought to myself, well, let them get on with it.
Now, to see you getting on with it, I could see you both getting on with it.
Are you jealous?
Perhaps just a little.
That performance won you a BAFTA nomination and the lasting friendship of your leading lady.
Oh, it's a waste of time talking to you, Mother. Other girls can have all the freedom in the world, but with you, life's not worthwhile living.
She played your fearsome wife, Kitty McShane, Maureen Lipman.
Oh.
Thank you.
Maureen, this was an uncanny performance. Can you persuade him to do a bit more?
I guess so, yeah.
Do that.
That's the one we used to call the nutcracker move.
I do have it one night, I did it and the chair collapsed.
That's right. And then you kept it in every night.
Me that collapsed after.
Well, I hope you're sitting comfortably now, and we'll continue. Maureen.
Well, it was sort of all spawned in Hull because Alan was from Hull and I was from Hull, and you met him in Hull and talked about getting the show together. And, of course, I'd grown up with the legend of Arthur Lucan in Hull because a lot of comics came to Hull and died. But Arthur Lucan did it literally. So it was very sort of special, and it was meant to be. And it was a happy show, wasn't it? It was a very happy experience. And it was one of those things where, once in a lifetime, where it's the perfect actor for the perfect role at the perfect time of his life. I wish you lots of joy, lots of joy, and another great part just like that one. With me in it.
Thank you, Maureen, very much. Well, that's not quite the finale, Brian. Earlier we heard how you and your family threw open your home in Tufnell Park to the success of foster children. Well, here for you tonight are just a few of them. Simon Allen, Martha Cower, Francis Durso, Paul Regan and Anthony Titonis. Martha, Brian is like a real father to you all.
Yes, he has been. He's been very supportive to all of us, and both Cara and Brian were fantastic with all of us, and we just really want to say thank you for being there, and thank you for giving us your home, and thank you for caring for us. And I can say that safely on behalf of all of us.
Brian Murphy, this is your life.